And then
I had to think about that shit. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh shit. Oh, yeah. Sonar! I like that shit.
Just, do you remember what to do?
Feed! I like that shit.
so you're the
Woo!
yeah.
Right.
So you go.
Hugo, do you remember what to do? Welcome to Sonar! Episode 266, tribute to a Badger.
I'll take that as a yes.
No question. No question.
Did anybody time that?
No.
Oh,
We never do.
because I was going to report to Real Doc Fake Name since it,
You know, I'm back in the swing of things.
he wants to take your pride again.
Damn.
Let's go. Let's bring him back for like Valentine's Day and do it right.
That's awful.
How are you, boys? Miss y'all, man. How's everybody doing?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's fucking a pleasure to be back, man. Happy New Year's, man. Yes. How's everybody doing?
Also, since you were last here,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad,
Feliz Navidad.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for serving Veterans Day.
What about
Happy Halloween.
For running the government.
Happy Dave weekend.
Yeah. Yeah,
Welcome
man,
back, Ugo.
Yeah, good to be back, man. Miss y'all. Everybody. Not just the boys here hanging out, man. Everybody. Grandma missed you a lot. Happy New Year. Yeah. No question.
That's
No
all we had to
question.
do to get Grandma to come out was have Hugo here.
Maybe it's the other way around. Let's
Is
go.
that what?
Is that what does it? Now we know.
Maybe it's the other way around.
Uh-oh.
There he is.
He's coming in smooth. So,
Oh,
Ugo,
my.
Ugo, you have like 12 seconds. What you been up to?
Shuffle.
No, just kidding.
I'm excited.
This episode 266 is called Tribute to a Badger, but we also have a special guest. Everybody in the live audience already knows who it is. That's why they're here. Our special guest today, walking right
What
up in
up,
the
what
middle,
up, what up, what
Mr.
up?
Steve Zakawani.
Let's go.
We're going to put you right here.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
We brought him on because it's basically an annual tradition to have him on once in the winter and once in mid-season. Good to see you again. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, some quick news, and then we have basically two heavy topics to hit during the show. First off, we're going to talk a lot about the honey badger, Osvaldo Alonso. And, of course, we're going to talk about Unbreakable because Steve's movie comes out February 9th on his birthday.
Some blankets.
I'm good.
We'll talk about that a little bit. So welcome again to SonarFeed, Steve.
Thank you. Hi. Happy New Year.
First up, we just want to hit up on some of the news. The Seattle Sounders drafted 3 kids. I'm going to call them kids.
They're literally kids.
None of my children.
None of them are related to Weigel, which is funny. It was really hard to find. There were 206 players eligible in the draft, and somehow none of them were Adams. Maybe next year. What do we got? We got Tucker Bone. I am going to mangle the Swedish gentleman's name. And Alex, I will screw up his name. I need to practice a lot more because I've only read them so far. But we have 3 draft picks. And since we have Steve here, talk a little bit about that moment when you were drafted. What'd that feel like to you? You didn't come from a culture where drafting happened, but...
No, I didn't. I don't know how it is for these kids. I don't know how it is now. Honestly, I haven't followed the draft in a very long time. But back then, I was already signed before the draft. So I went into the draft not worried about, if a team picks me up or not. I knew I'd be picked up because I was signed to Generation Adidas and I wouldn't count against the salary cap. So the only question was where you're going to end up. There was about maybe 20 of the players in the room at the time. I think back then it used to be on ESPN as well. So it was a pretty big deal for myself and all the other guys that were there. I think the 09 draft class, I don't know for sure, but is one of the strongest in the league history. I mean, it was Omar Gonzalez, AJ De La Garza, Rodney Wallace, Chris Pontius, Sam Cronin, Stephen Fry. I mean, these are guys who went in and started playing right away. So we had a very good group. For myself, it's just, I did the combine. That's the first time I met like Adrian and Schmetz and officially met Ziggy and all those guys in Fort Lauderdale, maybe Tampa, I can't remember. But then we went to the draft in St. Louis a few days later. And, I'd met with Salt Lake, I'd met with DC, I'd met with a few teams. And then ended up being Seattle, which obviously worked out well for everyone. But it's an interesting process because I don't have it back home. So going somewhere and them telling you there's, I think at the time, 15 or 16 teams, you could end up in any one of these cities, and good luck. So it worked out well, but I don't think the draft is what it used to be. I don't know the last time we had like a really impactful draft player, but we'll see. I wish them well.
Somewhat related, right? I mean, pretty related. Did you basically knew you were going to go number one?
No. So in college, I was in Akron, Ohio. I never had a phone, so I used to just be so tunnel vision. Like, I want to go pro, no distractions. So no phone, no TV, just Skype for my family back home. And I just was training every day. But towards the end of my sophomore year, there was one blog, I forget what it was. I used to read it, and they would always be ranking us. It was between me and Omar Gonzalez. And then, we both signed with the league in late December, went down to the combine. I was terrible because I'd gone home, was out of shape, didn't train, came to the combine, like, I didn't care. So I was really bad at the combine. So I didn't know at the time, but I know now that Adrian, Chris Henderson, those guys were iffy on me because of the combine. But Ziggy had seen me play 8 times, probably because he was in Columbus when I was close to Cleveland. So he'd actually come in person. And he goes, no, that's the guy. Make sure you take him number one. So it was between me and Omar Gonzalez at the time. The day of the draft, Alexi Lalas phoned me in my hotel room. And he asked me, like, Alexi, he says, he needed some sound bites for ESPN at the time. And he goes, where do you want to go? And I said, I'll go wherever. I'm just happy. He goes, don't give me that. Tell me a team. And so then I said Seattle because they had the number 1 pick. I knew they had Freddie Lundberg, who I'd watched as a kid growing up when I was at Arsenal. He was at Arsenal. I'd watched Casey Keller back home. So I knew they'd sold like maybe 19, 20,000 season tickets. And I knew that an expansion team, I was going in with a chance from day one to compete. Like, no favorites, no established veterans, like, we're all going to come in. So those things led to Seattle. I didn't care about the number 1 part. I just wanted to go to a franchise that was good, and it was going to be number 1 or number 3. I did not want to go number 2 because I think Toronto had number 2, and I didn't want to go to Canada. So
they also had that awful. They had an awful season.
Yeah, so
they were awful for like 10 years.
I wanted to go to either Seattle number 1, LA was number 3. And so it was one of the other. So I ended up going 1. Omar Gonzalez ended up going number 3.
So that's actually covered a little bit in your movie, if I remember correctly, because
a little bit, yeah.
Caleb is a big portion of the movie,
yeah.
He happened to be, he obviously as one of your coaches from college and pro. He's fairly extensively interviewed in Unbreakable. I'm not going to filter out spoilers because I've seen a version of it.
Yes.
It wasn't the final version,
no,
but
close.
Some things have changed, but we'll talk in depth in a bit. But I just thinking about the draft and kind of that.
Yeah,
that's one of those break points in who you are and what you are. And unlike some of the other ones where you can split off your life. I
think it's almost, I don't know the exact, almost 10 years to the day. I think maybe January 15th. It was around 13, 14. Someone check 2009 Super Draft.
St.
Louis. Yeah, I think it was January 15th, maybe.
January 15th.
Yeah, so
St. Louis.
We're pretty close to it. So it's this time of the year is always good for me just to kind of remember those days.
So
How far before that had you already signed your contract?
Mid-December.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was the league made it pretty clear they wanted Steve early in the process.
Yeah.
Was that a little bit like nervous?
No,
signing,
you know.
or you already have an agent by then. And
Yeah, so that's a great question. So back then, sophomores never really went pro. I think now you're getting the homegrowns and you're getting the DeAndres and Jordans and those guys. That wasn't around when I was coming out. It was mostly the combine was for seniors and things like that. So I just had a very fantastic sophomore year in Akron, Ohio. Just everything went well for us. We had a great team, good coach. We beat some pretty big teams. And when the season was done, my coach, Caleb, told me, don't come back, go pro. Like, he told me, you should take your opportunity. And when I did that, he walked me through the agent process. We met with like 10 agents in his office in a 2-day span. They all flew in. I picked the one that I wanted to go with after speaking with my family and things like that. For me, it was an exciting time. I had an offer from a team in England called Preston North End. They were in the championship at the time. I trained with them during the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. So they
have a
kept
center
tabs on
back
me.
that you're familiar with, right?
Preston?
Didn't
No, not at the time. No.
it was after that
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
went
yeah,
there? Okay.
yeah. Good question. Yeah. So I
That's
ended
his
up
brother. His
yeah.
brother eventually went to Preston.
He trained. Yeah. So I played there for a bit. It was between MLS or there, but no, pretty straightforward negotiations. I mean, it just was. You wanted some security. If you're leaving school early, you want like some guaranteed years. So I think, we put some guaranteed years in there. But I was confident. I played like in the summer against some Columbus Crew players back then. And I knew that I could play at that level. And I knew, I think it's harder as an attacking player. Like, it's a lot easier to come in as a defensive player and just break things down. Right. When you come in and you have to create, you have to do things. It's tough. So, but I had confidence, and then I was fortunate that I landed in a team where we had Montero, we had Lundberg, myself, and then Sano sometimes when he wanted to, but it was a group that we complemented each other so well. At that point of his career, Lundberg didn't want to run; he wanted us to run for him. we were the kids, so we did that. Montero we were opposites. Freddie wasn't fast, but he was excellent on the ball. He could hold the ball up for such a kind of short guy. Right. He could finish, and then so I just had to run off of him and make my movements. And then obviously we had Alonso here, who very early on I realized he could pick out a pass to the wing. If you could make a run, he'd find you. So I found a team that was just like built for my skills. And then to be fair to the coach, Sigi, because when I came in, we had like, I don't know if you remember, we had Carnell Smith, who was like a veteran for New England at the time. He was the number 11 here during preseason. And
he was known for this, basically the same thing you were most well known for, speed. Like, he was the burner. Yeah.
So during training camp we were in Ventura, California. I was always on the second team, always. But I knew I was playing better than him. So it was bothering me a lot, but I understood that there was a hierarchy. But to be fair to the coaching staff, midway through training camp, Sigi came to see me in my hotel room and just said, if you stay fit, you're going to play. And then they traded or cut Carnell Smith the next day. So like, I don't think many coaches would just take a rookie on like that, and then pretty much played every game at a time, Yeah. So it's pretty incredible that I had that opportunity. But I think being an expansion team worked in my favor.
I have a question for you. So, how do they handle rookies coming in as far as getting you guys situated, as far as housing and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's club dependent. I don't know that maybe now it's changed. Back then, I don't know if the league has anything. So for me, I was in London. I flew to Akron, Ohio, got on a plane to St. Louis first for the Herman Trophy Award. It's like the college soccer Heisman, which I should have won and didn't.
Do you remember who won?
Yeah, a guy called Marcus Tracy. So he was with Wake Forest. Then he forewent the draft and signed in Denmark. And then eventually he came back, and I think he signed with Philly. I can't remember. But yeah, should have won. But went from St. Louis to Fort Lauderdale for the combine, came back to St. Louis for the draft, flew home to Akron, Ohio that night. I had 2 days to get my stuff and come and back. It was just my clothes. And then I landed in Seattle. And it was, you guys remember a guy called Evan Brown? Evan Brown was from Wake Forest. Yeah, Wake Forest as well. So end up at the Courtyard Marriott in Tarquilla. They put all of us. So remember, it wasn't just us. It was Brad Evans, Tyson Ward. It was all the new guys. Nate Sturgis that were taken in the expansion draft. Everyone was new. We all came and were just in that hotel.
Like every trialist, every rookie, every expansion draft pick, basically.
For how long? For the entire
was there. So until you find a place. And so I wasn't really sure how the process went. I was like, in college I lived with 3 guys on the team. I wasn't sure, like, find an apartment, got to make the team. Like, it was just a lot. I had a friend back in Ohio who played on the team with me, who was actually helping me apartment search, and he found me a place. That's how I did it. But I mean, the only guy that, like, Freddie Lundberg stayed downtown at the Hyatt. So everyone else was in Tukwila.
Well, Casey wasn't in Tukwila.
Yeah, Casey had a house. He had a home here. But we were there. Me, Montero, Ozzie, all of us. So those days were good because we bonded as a team. We go down to South Centre Mall and hang out and things like that. So it was cool. But the team didn't really, the league didn't help. Adrian Hanover's girlfriend actually was the one driving us around to look at places and letting us know what we wanted, what we needed. And that's how I kind of started to know Adrian a little bit back then. We had a couple of team administrators, Vince Johnson, Grant Clark. They were always available via email if you needed something. But you pretty much were on your own. You have to find a place and figure it out. And for me, it wasn't, I didn't drive back then. I just got a place downtown. And then I became very good friends with James Riley. That was my carpool. And another guy called Jared Smith, who would come to us from Toronto. So,
New Zealander.
You kind of were on your own, but it wasn't hard because there were a lot of people here that I could
And other
ask.
folks that are going through the same thing too. So
Everyone,
you guys are doing it
everyone. So ended up being most of those guys: Evans, Tyson Wall, Nate Sturgis, Patrick Ioni. They all went to the east side, Kirkland, but they had wives, girlfriends. They were settled.
Whack.
Young guys.
You also
Yeah.
got a beer, man.
Don't hate on Kirkland.
Hate on
I
Kirkland.
think to a certain extent, probably having that experience all together probably helped to get that chemistry going, knowing each other, feeling really comfortable, so that everybody accepted that role right away. Because those kind of things bond you. You know what I mean? Like new plays, new, but you don't know nobody.
I'll tell you what helped that first year. We went to Argentina for preseason.
Oh wow!
And we went to Buenos Aires, and it rained every day. So a couple of the trainings had to be cancelled, and we had to just work out at a hotel gym and things like that, or just find things to do around the hotel if training was cancelled completely. So we just spent a lot of time together as a group. And I remember we were at VMAC that first week, maybe 2 weeks, whatever it was. And Ziggy never really said much. We just kind of went in, trained. It was in Argentina that he started implementing these ideas to the group. Started telling us the expectations, the team rules, who's going to be captain. We started to see tactics come out. Before that, we kind of just played and did our thing. And then he started to take small groups. He took me, Nayasi, Freddie, Montero for a meeting and just telling us what he expects out of young attacking players. We had a game against University of Portland that preseason on a Friday night, I think it was, just a random preseason game. And we played well. I scored, and I had my leg, my ankle was a little bit hurt from the game. So the next day, I just said, I'm gonna do what I did in college. I'm gonna sleep in, and I didn't know that you're supposed to be at team breakfast. I didn't know it was mandatory. Ooh. So I had a knock on my door. I think it was Schmitz that came to see me, and was like, "You need to get downstairs." I was an hour late or whatever. Most of the guys were gone, so I came down. Then I got a fine right away. So even small things like that, learning what it meant to be a pro, all took place during that training camp. And yeah, from there, it was me and Nayasi that missed, and I never missed one again. He did, but we learned that he just sleeps a lot, so we left it. It wasn't.
Yo, sleeping is one of the most important things.
Yeah, he slept a lot, man. So
it's all about recovery, man. I listened to LeBron in the podcast. Sleeping is my most important focus.
You're talking a little bit about Sigi. Our last show, we dedicated a lot of stories from the fan side about Sigi. The news came out that the Coach of the Year trophy is going to be named after your first professional coach.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
I have a lot of love and respect for Ziggy. Like I said, I would not be in Seattle without Sigi Schmid. He had to convince Adrian, convince Chris Henderson, convince Brian Schmetzer that I was the guy. And I think his exact words to them was, this guy is either going to be a really big bust or a star, and there'll be no in between. It's going to be one or the other. And they took his word for it. Like I said, I came to Seattle as a rookie. He trusted me. Ziggy was very hard on me my rookie year. So was Schmetz. Schmetz is still hard on me. That's just Schmetz. But it was... Normal. Yeah, just normal. But he was he became in sports, like a father figure, because we clashed at times. I didn't understand some things he did. I might have played well on Saturday, we had a game on Wednesday, then I was on the bench. It happened once my rookie year. And then we had another game on Saturday when I started. Then he was telling me like he's managing my body and not. I wanted to play. So we clashed over that. But he always welcomed it. He'd open his office door. I'd go see him. I spent many Friday afternoons in Ziggy's office. Mondays after games. Like we had a game on Saturday. We came in on Monday. He and I would talk sometimes just out on the training pitch. One time, I think we played Santos away in a Champions League game. Not the 6-1, the 2-1. I think we lost 2-1 and we should have won. And we had a couple injuries and I ended up playing centrally like the last 30 minutes. And I thought I did really well, like in the middle, like I enjoyed it. And then after the game on the pitch, Ziggy stopped me and was going at me and saying that, you should have done better. We came back to Seattle and the next day he came to see me and on the pitch at training said, I watched the tape again and I was wrong. Like, you actually did do well. I just expect so much. So he had that. And then there was other times where I was wrong about something. I had to approach him. So we had that relationship. Obviously, I left Seattle. We went separate ways, but we stayed in touch. Like, I would periodically text with Ziggy. Like, I think I've put out there that he and I had like a long 2-hour conversation a year or so ago. He just called me randomly out of the blue one day. I was literally getting ready to leave my house and sitting in my car in the garage and Ziggy phones me and I thought it was something. So I thought it was going to be a 2-minute conversation, like he needed something or wanted someone's number or something. You just seen how I was and we just spoke and it was just about everything. And I think it was just before he got the LA Galaxy job. So we talked about that and then we texted often. When he came in with LA, I saw him. And like I said, I spoke to Ziggy probably a month and a half ago. Again, like the last actual contact we had. Like, so we always were still in touch. So he's in the documentary and he was sick that day as well. And I wasn't there, but the film crew went to see him and they said he just pushed through. And I know he would not have done that just for anyone. So a lot of respect for him. And I think as we're going into 10 years, this franchise in the MLS era, I don't think you get off to the start you get without a Sigi Schmid kind of figure. Someone who knew the league, he knew the players. Players came here because of him. He bought like a Brad Evans, he became a club legend. He bought Osvaldo Alonso. Like all these guys came in, and he had Ziggy was like I was scared like in the first pre-season, like when Ziggy would be in a room, just like intimidated because that's Sigi Schmid. So I think a lot of guys had that, and he commanded that respect. We went into games like there were some games, man. My rookie year, we played Chicago away, and they had the Mexican guy, Blanco, and he was killing us. Like, I'm like, Brian McBride was playing. Casey Keller stood on his head. Like, without Casey, we lose that game 5-0. We came in at halftime, and I'm like, we're going to get killed. And Ziggy was so calm. He's just so relaxed, convinced us we'd get something out of the game. And I think we ended up either drawing 1-1 or 0-0. But he knew the mood of the team, how to get under us sometimes and most times to bring us down. So just I think deserves a ton of credit for getting this franchise off to the start it had. I mean, all those Open Cup wins, playoff appearances, you don't have that without a respected guy at the top. And like every coach, he had his flaws, he had his strengths, weaknesses. But I think the overall consensus was we trusted what he was doing. That Ziggy, I knew 4-4-2, here's what he expects. And the good and bad thing about Ziggy was so loyal. Once you were in, it took a lot for you to be out of his team. And for someone like me, that was good because I could have 2-3 bad games and Ziggy would still trust me. If you were on the outside, I can see why it'd be frustrating because you might be like, I'm outperforming that guy and I'm not playing. But Ziggy, once he went to war with you and you proved you could win, I think for me it was after we won the Open Cup in DC, my rookie year. After that, I sensed my role in the team changing. I sensed Ziggy saw me. I can call on Freddie. I can call a play for Lundberg Montero. I can do the same for Zakuani. It was kind of like, okay, you've graduated from being a rookie to like, you're here. And once you cross that with Ziggy, you were there. That's why someone like Brad Evans, Ziggy would find a spot to play. It didn't matter where. Left back, right mid, because he knew Brad is my guy and I know what I'm getting from Brad. So he was very loyal in that sense and that worked well in my favor. But it's a fantastic coach, fantastic man, love the game. And I think, tributes like what we've seen from the league this week, we're going to see more and more of those things as these things come out.
That was badass. Oh my God.
Yeah. There are a lot of stories about Sigi, but when you talk about loyalty, it's interesting because so many players from opposing teams, his team, from the U20s, whether they were with the Galaxy with him 20 years ago or with Seattle in 2016, they praised him, and he kind of generated that loyalty the other way, is in a way that some coaches haven't been able to do. Now, I know you had 2 coaches, and you're obviously loyal to both of them. But from talking to other players, is that something that you get, like your impression is that he generated a loyalty that
Like
kind of went both
Ziggy?
ways?
Yeah. I mean, like, Kai Kamara is my friend, and he talks about Ziggy. That's like his father. Like, Kai was hit very hard by this news. Like, I talked to Kai because Ziggy had him in Columbus, I think it was, and it wasn't even that long, and he didn't even play that much, but he made such an impression. Alejandro Moreno, same. He looks up to Ziggy in a big, big way. When you think that Ziggy has had a role in careers of people like Alexi Lalas and Brad Friedel and those guys, and then you bring it down to like Jordan Morris, Christian Rowe, like he spanned so many generations of soccer in this country. It's just such a powerful presence. I don't know if you guys saw Jimmy Conrad's post, but I thought that was the best story that came out, that Jimmy Conrad's stepfather basically was, he had cancer, he was terminal, and he didn't have long to live, and Jimmy Conrad had played for Ziggy at UCLA. And I think Jimmy was probably with Kansas, and they were playing against the Galaxy or whoever he was with. And Jimmy got a red card the previous game and was suspended against the Galaxy. But that was the last chance for his stepdad to watch him play. And Ziggy phoned the league to ask him to delay Jimmy's suspension for an extra week so his dad could see him play. And they did. And Jimmy got to play. And then shortly after, his stepfather passed away. So I think things like that, for me, it's mind-blowing. And you hear those kind of stories. I'm hearing a lot of them from a lot of people, and it's incredible. So when I think of people that Ziggy's really close to, Brad Evans comes to mind, because I would always, Ezra Hendrickson as well. And no, if I didn't understand something, Pete Verheinos for sure. Like, Pete is crazy. Like, those two, I spoke to Pete as well. Pete's my friend, good friend of mine. Pete was with Ziggy at UCLA for 4 years, at the Galaxy for like 3 or 4 years, and in Seattle. These two were like this. After a game, on a Saturday night, we'd come in for like a recovery training session on Sunday. Pete would text me what the team talk would be or what Ziggy was going to say in the meeting that morning. 9 times out of 10, he was right. Like, he would tell me exactly. He knew Ziggy so well, it was unbelievable. He's like, you watch the way the game went. We won, we lost, how we played. He's like, okay, Ziggy's going to say X, Y, Z today. That's what he's going to say. And most of the time, he was right. So he was close to a lot of players, man. He just impacted so many people. And I think a lot of us feel the same way towards him. Even though there was times when we didn't understand him or upset with him, whatever. You always knew that Ziggy cared. You always knew.
I tried to pass it to Tom, but he's passed.
No, I'm just. It's like dumbfounding to listen to it, but at the same time, like, I'm not surprised at all by half of the things, and it's something we touched on last week. Is things didn't maybe end quite as well as we'd all have loved it to here in Seattle, but what's been really cool over the last few weeks, and frankly, even since Ziggy was not coaching in LA, and since the word was that he had taken ill, like, you started to hear some stuff bubble up and things that people maybe close to the scene, were willing to share, and like stories that I don't think any of us have ever heard. Which is, it's really kind of touching at the end of the day. It's just, I think the point early on that was made about like the team wouldn't be where it is now without somebody of his caliber here. I'm hopeful that everybody believes that and like knows it at the end of the day. And that's not something a lot of other fans of other teams will ever get to experience. It doesn't matter if they get that coach 10 years in or 20 years in. It's just a different thing than year one. You have that for a decade, basically. So.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, no, those are great stories. So thank you for sharing them.
Badass. Thank you.
And you said that he's an Unbreakable? I'm going to plug Unbreakable.
Yeah, Ziggy's in the documentary. Yeah, Ziggy recorded an interview when he was still coaching the Galaxy. He'd heard I was doing it, and we kind of spoke, and he said he wants to do it. And then, the film crew flew out there from London to see him, and he made time, and he spoke with them, and he's probably... the last kind of strong interaction I had with him was his part in this. So, he's in it.
we're gonna shift up a little bit right now. We're gonna go light tactics because we're gonna go heavy into Ozzie later. But I just kind of wanted your opinion. It's fullback. It's on the side that supports you. Nuhu and Brad Smith. And so it's not often that you didn't switch very often to the right.
I hated it. Ziggy would tell me to. It's the weirdest thing because I'm right-footed, but when I was on the right, I hated it. I just couldn't play there. So Ziggy would always say to me and Sana or me and Flaco or me and Sebastian, or whoever was on the other side, feel free to switch during the game. And that person would look at me 10 minutes in and wave, and I just put my head down like I'm not coming over there. So
nope,
I'm not. I didn't like it. So yeah, the left is my side, man.
So let's imagine a little bit. You're running at, say, a Brad Smith and a Nuhu. With those two, who would you, as Steve Zakwani, which of those would you prefer to run at?
That's a bad question for me because I was so confident that whoever I'm facing,
well,
like I'm gonna.
This a few times.
Yeah, like I had that was my mindset. But no, to be honest, if I was going into a game, I'll be completely honest here. I would rather play against Nuhu, and here's why. Even though physically he's gifted, and I knew that like he might stay step for step for me well and things like that, I think Brad Smith is better tactically. So, like I said, I'll give an example of Ozzie. During the game, I would give Ozzie a look, and Ozzie would know what that would mean. It would be something like, I'd pretend I was checking towards Ozzie, the defender would come with me, and Ozzie wouldn't play it, because then I was spinning, going in behind, and he'd play that. I think Nuhu would fall for that a lot more than Brad Smith. I could beat Nuhu tactically with my mind, because I would take, as I got more experience, my second year, my third year, I knew how to beat the right back, left back without the ball, which is important as a winger. You can't. My rookie year was always the ball. I just wanted to do stuff to you. But my second year, the reason I scored so many more goals because I was running without the ball. And I feel like the really good right backs I had a hard time with were the ones not who were physically gifted, but they were so smart tactically, they took away my space. Yeah, knew who's going to want the fight, he's going to stick to me, and I'll be like, I'm going to win this in the mind and by beating you in spaces. And then also 1v1. Like, I feel like if I'm dribbling at one of them, I'd rather personally go against Brad Smith, like personally, because I feel like Nuhu's throwing elbows and jumping in, and I don't know. So, but no, I think they're very different, but yeah, just tactically, Nuhu's still not as experienced. Brad's from Liverpool and he's played in England and the Premiership. He's tactically there. Nuhu's going to get there right now. I think I would beat Nuhu just on the tactics alone.
So there's been some rumors that some teams are interested in him overseas.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think he should go? And if the offer's reasonable, do you think he has more to learn here before he should go? What's your thoughts on potentially leaving?
I think he always has stuff to learn. So he can go and he'll be fine. I don't think he should go, and because I think he has a good situation here in Seattle. It's hard, as a professional athlete to be in a situation where everybody loves you, and what I mean by that is the coaching staff loves Nuhu, his teammates love him. Like you won't always find that. So I think he has a coaching staff that trusts him. Brian Schmetzer, they've invested a lot into him. I see what they tell him in training. He's with Jimmy Traore, who obviously was a great left back in that position as well. So he's someone to learn from there. So if I was speaking to him, my advice would be give it a year, give it 2 years, just to continue to get better. Nuhu is now, we know what he can do, but the question is, can you do it every week? Consistency. That's, for me, when I judge players, is can you be good every week? That's the only reason I talk about Messi or Cristiano how it is, because it's 10 years. Like, this isn't just a month or 6 months. Like, Mo Salah had a fantastic year. He's having a good year this year, but not how he was last year. Whereas Messi and Ronaldo come back every year. Alonso, that's why I'm so high on him, because I've seen with my own eyes, in the flesh, someone who was good every week for 10 years. Like, I've never seen that before. Freddie Montero would go missing for 9 games, come for 9 games and score 10 goals, then go missing. I would have games where I was good and I was bad, and Ozzie was good every week. I don't know how you explain that for 10 years. I don't know. So that would be where I would challenge a Nuhu. Can you now be good every game? Don't have a game where Brian Schmetzer is pulling his hair out on the side because you're daydreaming and the ball's behind you and things like that, like what happened in Kansas, things like that. Like, you can't have that. So MLS is way more forgiving on that. You go to those overseas teams where the rosters and everything they can just sign a player overnight. If you're not good enough, it's way more cutthroat. It'll be tough, I think. So I think I would prefer for him to stay here.
You primarily had Leo Gonzalez behind you. Zach Scott a little bit.
Tyson Wall.
Tyson Wall. Putting yourself on the field, you got Brad Smith and Nuhu behind you. Which one of those interacts with Steve better? And how do you see them differing in the attack? Like,
Great question. So I remember when Joven was here, and I would hang out with Joven often. We'd be in groups together at dinner or whatever. People would always say, "You two on the left," and I actually didn't agree because I preferred, and I love Leo. Leo was one of my favorite teammates, amazing. But I had to learn to play with Leo because Leo liked to attack as well. And I'm like, I don't need
Wait,
you. Like,
Leo liked to attack?
Yeah. So,
we sometimes forget that, but in that 9, 10, 11 era, he was an attacking force.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, he wanted to go, but I'd be like, for me, it's like, I don't want you up here. I don't need you. Just give me the ball.
My space.
Like, let me do this. Joven and those guys, the modern kind of left back, right back, they love to go forward. I love Zach Scott because before games, Zach didn't want to attack. Zach would be like, I'm going to defend, you're going to attack. I'll get the ball, I'll give it to you. Like that. Loved it. So with Brad Smith and Nuhu, they both like to go forward a lot. So I'd have to change my game a tiny bit. I'd have to come inside a little bit more. I'd have to play a couple more 1-2s, combine, play them in and things like that. Probably Brad Smith because he's more polished at this point. I feel like I could play, my touch was pretty good and things like that, and I could get things done quickly. So with Brad Smith, I think I can see him give me the ball for 1-2. I can see us combining more in that sense, but I much prefer, for me, it's the person behind me, just the way I played. And I don't know that the Sounders have someone like this. I don't have someone who's just going to carry the ball 20, 30 yards every time they get the ball and whatever. So...
Are you saying you'd have to defend more?
And I don't want to say that because I didn't like to defend, obviously. So having Zach was perfect. But no, I learned to play with Leo. I learned to play with Tyson. They understood how I played. And it's something, when I was a rookie and I came in, I had to defend way more. After, I scored a bunch of goals my second year, Ziggy's not yelling at me as much to get back because you can score. So it's like, if you earn that. It's like, the coach knows, you know what, he could have maybe come back there, but on the other side, he's given us so much, I'll let that slide. Now, if you're not doing it, you better get back. And I think Tyson understood that, Leo understood that. They knew. Leo would always, he didn't speak much English, but would always say to me, like, in a game, if 10 minutes have gone by and I've not really been involved, he'd be like, my friend, like, you're the best 1v1. He'd do like that and just like get the ball and go, and then I'll stay back. So they understood the way I played. The funny thing about Leo is we played so many games together. Our first game together, his debut, people forget, was against Messi and Barcelona.
Oh, wow.
And he couldn't speak English. My Spanish was so back then, and we're facing Messi and Dani Alves on our side. And we looked at each other, and I'm just like, I don't know, like it's just.
That was his first game. The white eye look like.
Yeah.
Is this what
one of the advantages that you two had was if you had both been forward, you knew there was a defensive midfielder there who could pick up the mistakes pretty easily.
Yeah.
You had Osvaldo Alonso behind you. It didn't matter if he was on the right side of the field or the left. He would pick up. If that space was empty, he'd find a way to fill it pretty quickly. Let's just start simply.
Yeah,
Ozzie defensively.
Yeah, I'll also give Brad Evans credit there. The reason our team worked in 2009 is we had a fantastic goalkeeper, Casey Keller. He was, the first 2 years especially, out of this world. We had a very, very stable back line. James, you knew what you're getting every week. 6, 7, 8 out of 10 in that range every week. Tyrone Marshall and John Kennedy were outstanding. And then we had Leo on the left, very solid. The two in the middle were the best box-to-box. Brad's lungs, his energy was phenomenal. Obviously, you know what Ozzie can do. Having them two side by side, Brad was so good at reading where the spaces were. So it allowed myself and Sandan Ayasi to just go. And Lundberg and Montero. We defended, but not that much because those guys covered so much ground. So having that peace of mind was like you wouldn't believe. I can't tell you some game. Usually away games because you're chasing the game more. Like at home, we'd be in control and we just play. We'd go away, whatever it was, and we'd lose the ball at turnover, and I'm running back. And the amount of times I see it in my mind right now, I just see Alonso telling me, just stay, like, don't come back. Like, I've got this. It was just the best thing because like, he would cover my guy, win the ball, and give it to me and catch me in a in a good position. Like, my clearest memory of that was my second year. We're playing Dallas away, and I was having a horrible game. 35 minutes, haven't touched the ball, not really involved, nothing. And we were defending so much. I was chasing the right back, and then Ozzie came to me and was like, look, the next time the right back comes, you just stay. Like, don't go. Just stay. I'm going to find you. I said, okay, no problem. And it happened just like that. Ozzie wins the ball. The right back's caught in attack. I'm wide open. Ozzie splits the defenders. I run onto it. We score. We go 1-0 up. So Sounders lucked out on Ziggy. Sounders lucked out on Ozzie. Like, we wouldn't be nowhere near as good in those early years without him. Like, most teams are lucky to find a defensive midfielder who's going to break down plays. Then you have another midfielder next to him who's going to build the team's attack. We are 2-in-1. Like, he was the best at breaking things down, and he was the best at building out of the back. He wanted the ball. Sometimes you'll see him and Stefan Fry yelling at each other because Ozzie might have two players on him and he wants the ball, and Steph's like, you're marked, but Ozzie actually wants the ball because he's just going to spin out of it. Like, that's how he wants it. So, but he's always been that way. Like, it got to the point when we in training, if I'm against him in certain spots, I wouldn't even try to get the ball because I know even if I went there, if I choose this way, he's going to spin that way. Like, he somehow knows the way I'm going to go. So I will just leave him. To have 2-in-1, it was very durable back then. Played every game, and he played every game at a high level. Always a high level. Just the ultimate team player. And the thing, all my friends in England and stuff would be like, yeah, they think Ozzie was like this mean person because of the way he was on the pitch. Like, he just would hit people and always in the referee's face. He's like the nicest guy in the world. It's like Ozzie was the biggest prank star. I spoke to him like a couple of days ago. We were just reminiscing. Like, that's what we missed. Like, we used to play a lot of pranks in the changing room, on road trips, at team meals, like stories about him in Cuba growing up, me telling him about the Congo, and joke. Like, he just was such a great guy. And then you cross the pitch and he switched. And sometimes, like, even in training, but Ozzie didn't. I've told him Ozzie didn't train well. If he came to training, you'd think like, this guy, what's the hype? This guy's not that good. But every now and then, I don't know what happened that morning, he would decide to train. And when he decided to train, forget it. Whatever team he's on, he's going to win. Like, when Ziggy splits the teams, or Schmitz, whoever's doing it that day, 5-on-5, 8-on-8, you just check where Ozzie, okay, if he wants Ozzie, are you going to play? That team's going to win. So if he ever was on my team, and I would just motivate him, Ozzie, and then he'd be, okay, and then I knew we were going to win. So I never played with a player who had that much influence on whether the team won or lost. Never.
You mentioned that he and Brad were the partners in the middle in those earliest years. Both went on to be the captain.
Yeah.
After you, when did you start seeing that kind of leadership from them? Because they were both, and you were young.
Yeah.
In 2009.
Yeah.
And then those two both go on to wear the armband, and probably those two defined what the captain's armband means in Seattle.
Yeah, Brad from day one. Brad was always talking. I used to just be like, I know, like almost like Brad was almost too much, because Brad was always instructing, be here, go here, always in training, and it just was like that. Ozzie didn't speak. Ozzie just led by example. Like, you knew he was there. Ozzie didn't want to be captain. I know there was games when they offered Ozzie captaincy. Ozzie said no. Ozzie just wanted to do his job and just play. Brad, one, Ziggy trusted him. You knew that. And two, the way he was. Brad was vocal. Like, I don't know the best skill Brad has, nothing like that. But I always said he's in my team. Like, Brad Evans is going to be in my 11. If I'm picking a team, I'm putting Brad, because I'm going to go to war with Brad, and I know everything I'm going to get from him, and he gives us a better chance of winning. You couldn't really explain it. It was intangible almost. Like, Brad on the pitch, it just helped. And we grew to understand each other as well. Once I knew exactly how Brad played, what Brad wanted to do, it made it easier. But Brad, you could see from day one, Ozzie didn't know he was Ozzie until like 2012, 2013. What I mean by that is from like 2009 to 2012, he just was one of the guys on the team. And we have to tell him every week, no, you're the best player here. And he didn't know that. I think like in 2012, he began to understand that how the league viewed him. I remember there was a preseason trip. We were down, I want to say in 2012, 2013, we were down in Arizona. And we're sitting, and again, this story illustrates how the league viewed Ozzie. I'm good friends with Bradley Wright Phillips. I grew up with him back home in London. It was Bradley Wright Phillips, Thierry Henry, Jimmy Traore, who knew Thierry from Paris, and myself, just talking. Ozzie Alonso starts walking by and Henry stood up and he runs over to Ozzie and calls him over. Me, Bradley, Jimmy keep talking, and then Ozzie and Thierry are going 100 miles per hour in Spanish next to us. Just talking like that for like the next hour. Wow. And then when it's done, Ozzie goes to his room and Thierry just goes, I'd love to play with that guy. He told me that in French. So that's how like these world-class players viewed Ozzie. And Thierry had been here a year or two, and he probably played Seattle once a year. But he knew when he played Seattle, or he
every other
Seattle,
year because no turf.
Exactly. Yeah, he didn't even play. So, but he knew that guy is the guy. And I think those interactions when he made the All-Star team, I think they began to show him like it's you, because he didn't know that. Man. He kind of was just like a guy on the team, works hard at training, and didn't know. And I'm sitting next to him, trying to tell him like, you're like easily like the best player that I've played with, and you're easily our most important player, our most valuable player. Easily, you're our best player. You can do everything. You're just the best player. So, like the team could manage without me for 3 or 4 games, and then you might say, okay, we need someone on the wing. Freddie's out. Okay, we'll find goals from elsewhere. If Ozzie was out, it was like a big panic. We had no one who could come in anywhere near his level and maintain it. Like we just didn't have it, and it was like we had games where I remember Tyrone Marshall in those first years was very vocal, a leader, great guy to have. Tyrone missed some games, we throw someone in there. When Ozzie would be missing, we just panicked because it's like, if you're facing Salt Lake, okay, Javier Morales is going to be happier now. He's going to have space. For Dallas, David Ferreira. LA, when Landon was scared of Ozzie. That Landon will have the ball. Ozzie's coming. Landon gets rid of the ball. Like he didn't want anything to do with Ozzie. Like Landon would be scared. Ozzie would go into games and it would be we're playing Portland. It was like a personal challenge to shut down Valeri and Agby. Like it was like, let me have this. Like he's like, Valeri's this, he's that. I'm gonna shut him down today. Like it's like that's the kind of mindset he had, and then he would do it. And then not only that, and then he'd complete the most passes, build all the attack. It's just special player. Honestly, I can't even put into words how fantastic it was. He told me his best seasons were those early years, but I tried to tell him like from till now. Like I watched Ozzie last. I remember watching him closely in one of the games, being down there on the sideline and just watching him because he'd been injured and he'd come back. And just forgetting to do my job. Like I'm in awe just watching this guy move. And I'm like, how are you still doing this 9-10 years in? Like, if Ozzie has a bad season, if Ozzie has a bad game, he's the only guy I said he's allowed to have a bad game. Like, you've earned unlimited amount of bad games. If you never have another good game again in your career, you're still our best player ever. So it's like, I don't know how I can quantify the importance of having him. And I remember the first day I met him, he walked into VMAC, didn't know who he was because he didn't come the first day of preseason. He came like 5 or 6 days in, just sat down in the locker, and super like skinny, slim guy, whatever. And then we go out in training, and this guy's leaving everyone on the floor and he's knocking people down. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So we became friends right then.
So he wouldn't hurt you?
Yeah.
If you can't beat him, join him.
That's a big thing. Like I remember like when I played for Portland against Seattle and I came up and then I think we were texting that week, and I was like, he was like, oh, he texted me, he's like, I know all your moves. So like I know what you're gonna do, like as a joke like that. And I'm like, nah, I've learned some new ones in Portland. Like that as a joke. And then so when I see him on the pitch, whatever, he's like, nah, I would never, like, you're my friend. Like, I would never hit you, basically. As almost like just as a term of endearment. But I've had trainings with Ozzie where Ozzie cleaned me out. Oh yeah. I remember there was one training in Bradenton, Florida. It's the year Eddie Johnson signed. So we were down there in preseason and we were doing like 5-on-5s. And it's one of those days in training where, I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling Ozzie's team was losing and he gets madder and madder with every loss. And so I'm just taking the piss out of their team and then dropping shoulder, cutting, step over, all of that. And out of nowhere, Ozzie came in and cleaned
Steve Zakawani did a step over?
Yeah. Ozzie, he's one of his good friends, cleans me out, then picks me up and then carries on going. So it's like he had that side of him as well.
So I guess that kind of leads into what do you see with the team going into preseason losing
you know what?
the best player?
I think they're gonna be fine. Like it's a weird thing because I actually agree with the move. I actually agree with it from this perspective. If you're talking about age, recent injury history, and the team looking towards the future, like when I was at Akron, Ohio, we had Darlington Nagbe, Theo Bunbury, a guy called Blair Gavin, who ended up playing with Chivas, Evan Bush, who's Montreal goalkeeper, Kofi Sarkodie, who played for Houston for many years, a guy called Anthony Ampai, who was on the US youth national team, he's now playing in Thailand, Michael Nanchoff, who played in Portland. So a stacked team. When I was there my sophomore year, I had 20 goals in 23 games. Those guys didn't do anything. When I left, they became the best team in the country. Went undefeated for 2 years pretty much and then won national championship because Nagbe had to step up. So sometimes you have to take like someone who's that dominant just to put Christian at the deep end, to put Gustav at the deep end. Like now it's a case of Ozzie's not coming. Like when you're facing Valeri this year, you're facing, if he's there, Almiron, people like that, there isn't Ozzie to shut them down. You have to do it now. So I think that's going to make Christian better. It's going to make Gustav better. It's going to make, if Jordan Delem gets his minutes better, it has to make the team better in that sense. So I agree from that perspective. If it was just about ability in a league with no salary cap, then Ozzie's going to be here for life because he's not going anywhere. But I understand how sports work. I understand. So I understand why the Sounders would make the move. But it's a good move for Ozzie as well because he's going to be, I know him, he's going to be motivated. Like, he has that, a bit of that Dempsey where there's a chip on their shoulder and they're like, you know, you wrote me off or you don't believe in me, I'm going to prove you wrong. And he plays better that way. So he's going to be really good in Minnesota. Him and Quintero, it's going to be special in Minnesota. They're getting a really good player. So the move I agree with, I think in Christian, you have someone who not even is going to become, he is Christian's here. He's had several seasons now, very good. So there's nothing to worry about as a Sounders fan. All you can say is that you're not going to replace Ozzie. The team will look different. And you probably will struggle a little bit more against those really special number 10 type players. You'll struggle a little bit more.
Do you think the attack presses a little higher, a little more frequently since there's not Ozzie there to pick up?
You can. So Nico, Victor, that group, they're going to miss Ozzie a lot because he's the guy that will get the ball from Stephen Fry or Chad Marshall or Kim, Roman, and then split the other team's midfield and find Nico to feed. They would always find little pockets of spaces. So they're going to miss that a lot with Ozzie not there. So I know that for a fact. What you can do now without Ozzie, because in his last couple of years, he maybe didn't cover as much ground. He'd pick and choose his moments, or a bigger game, he'd run a bit more. If it's a game where the team was in control, he would stay a bit more. Christian is going to run more, even more than he's already running, and he runs the most. And then Nico, Victor, as crazy as to say, they're going to get even more touches because Ozzie took a lot of the touches because he was so good. Ozzie would have 90, whatever it was, right around Nico's number. So Nico's going to become an even focal point. I expect to see Nico come in even deeper. And he's played that position before, but Nico, even if he starts high, will come deeper to play make because you don't have the passing out of midfield that you once had. Ozzie will get the ball. Yes. Right. So there's going to be a lot more of that. And then you see, I mean, so yeah, the team. When I think of the team, they're in good shape, man. Yeah, Victor's got another year. I'm a big fan of Victor, like a massive fan. Like I think he's such a fantastic player. I don't think it's appreciated, like generally around the league. I don't know why, because every time I watch this guy play,
because people are stupid.
He's just brilliant. He's just honestly like I'm watching. Sometimes he's too smart. So he saw the play happen 5 seconds ago, and he tries to do it, and his team's not on the same page. It's like he's that smart, and you see he came from Spain, that style. So him having another preseason, hopefully starting the season healthy, is going to be huge as well. Nico's Nico. You're talking about getting Jordan back. Even someone people don't talk about, someone like Will Bruin, who you know you're guaranteed 8 to 10 goals. Rui Diaz for a full season, that's scary. So I think the team's in great shape. It was the time where if you could let Ozzie go, it would be now. That now is that we can actually do it, be a different team. We'll miss him, but it makes sense for everyone. I think that's fair.
Do you... I think your point on, and I haven't thought about this way at all, is when Ozzie's been out and the team, like you can see it on the field, and you know he's going to be out a month and a half. and the mids just seem to be having a problem week after week after week.
Yeah.
Maybe there is really something to the like, well, he's not here, so we've got to be a different team.
Yeah.
That's really valuable.
Yeah.
But beyond that, do you think there is given who's available right now, Victor healthy, Jordan healthy, and raring to go, Rui Diaz, Will Bruin, Nico, and do we have a formation change? Dave and I have talked about this at length. Like, to deploy and just be like a punishing offense right now.
Yeah. I think going into it, they're going to go 4-2-3-1. Right, that's going to be your base. That's what you're going to start with. Because you have such a long preseason this year and guys got a rest, Brian Schmetzer is going to be able to kind of tinker and play with a formation throughout preseason, during scrimmages, maybe some of the friendly exhibition games, figure out whether it's 4-4-2 or straight 4-3-3, whatever he wants to do. But what I think personally is if you're playing one up top, it has to be Rui Diaz, because you're talking at this point about he's someone who, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm convinced you put him on any league in the world, he's going to score. So if he goes to the EPL, if he goes to La Liga, if he's in Mexico, he's just born to score. Like, he can read a deflection. That's a skill. He knows like it's gonna hit the defender and come here. Like, why is he always the first one to the board? Montero had that same knack where the ball would find them in the box. Rui Diaz has that, so he has to play. Now you're talking about Jordan on one of the wings. We had him on the right his rookie year. It wasn't going well. He went to the left, had a bit more success. Okay, so now you're talking about what you do with Nico and Victor. Eva can play the 10, Eva can play on the right. I prefer Victor on the left more than the right. So now I would put Victor underneath. I would put Nico on the right because he's going to move around anyway. He's not going to stay there. We know that. So, but I would put Victor. So that would be how I would go into it with Will Bruin coming off the bench. And I think they would understand that. And then Jordan has to earn his place and everyone has to earn. I get that. If you want to play two up top, then you're talking about if you can find a way to play Jordan and Rui Diaz, which they will at times together up top, I don't know. At their best, I don't know many teams that can put a better strike duo together. Like, we have Jordan Morris, we have Rui Diaz, both fit, ready to go. That's pretty good. And then we have Nico and Victor in and around him, playing them balls, feeding them balls. I think it makes Jordan better. It makes Rui Diaz a lot better as well. So you'll see a variation of two up top, but I'm convinced Brian Schmetzer likes to play out of a 4-2-3-1. I think it still suits Christian and Gustav. They're going to give Christian that midfield, tell him it's his, and he has to like go even another step again, like he's done every year, and then let the guys up top figure it out. But Rui Diaz, your focal point. Jordan's going to have to learn, again, to be more of a winger, because that's where he's going to get a lot of his minutes at. And then, yeah, I think you'll have a variation of two up top, but I expect them to go 4-2-3-1.
I know it's like an ancient formation, but just hear me out here. Diamond. Gustav in the base. Mm-hmm. And then you talked about Nico dropping deep. Nico and Christian is your eights. And then Victor in that middle. Is that something that you think could suit those players?
You take out Jordan. That's the tough part.
Well, no, I have him up top with Raul.
Oh, two up top. 4-4-2, yeah.
That the 4-4-2 in the diamond.
And then you're getting your width from Leerdam and then Smith or Nuhu. It could work. The only concern I would have, is, and I say this because actually I can say it because I was the same. Nico doesn't like defend like a lot. So when Leerdam's up and Nico's up that right side, you're asking Gustav to slide and cover. When you have two, you always have one extra. Yeah. Now you're stuck. And that scares me against... like I said, Atlanta was going to win. I tweeted it back in March. They were going to win because I knew that... Obviously, Martinez is going to score every game. But then you have Almiron. And I knew that when Darlington Nagbe went there, he's going to find certain spaces that's going to free up Almiron. They're going to have... It's going to be those two against teams that play 1D mid. They're going to kill those teams. So if the Sounders got just Gustav, then you're talking about defending Almiron, defending Nagbe. You can't do it. So I would fear for that formation defensively, only defensively. Especially with Gustav at the bottom of that diamond, because you want him to stay central, but then if Nico gets caught, Leerdam gets caught, it's tough. And if you lay them, don't go up, then you have no width. So it becomes tougher. You can play out of it for sure. I mean, it will be a great formation to play out of, and you can beat a lot of teams that way. The really good teams that are going to ask you questions as well. How do you defend those? I think the security that two holding mids give you allows Nico to cheat a bit defensively, Victor to cheat a bit, because you know Christian's there, Ozzie's there, Gustav's there. You always knew that. So that would be my only worry defensively.
Wanted to circle back a little bit, and when you went over some of the players now and how you feel about them. One of the questions in the chat group got my attention, and we all consider Ozzie to be el corazón de los Sounders. Yeah. Who has that potential or the capacity to be el nuevo corazón?
Honestly, I don't think anyone. I don't think you can. Like, Chad is a key of the team, but he's not like Ozzie in that sense. Obviously, Stefan Fry has been fantastic. Christian has the potential to continue to grow. I just, for all the reasons stated before, I just don't think you can replace Ozzie in that. Like, you can't replace him like for like anyway. Okay, one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team when they're on their day, like Man City, they struggle when Fernandinho doesn't play. Like, Crystal Palace beat them, Leicester beat them. Like, they wrap that guy. He hardly trains during the week, just play games because they need him. I see Ozzie like that as well. Someone who, there's no like-for-like replacement. The closest player to him that I've seen in MLS is Diego Chara. And I played with both of them.
Boo, that man.
And, yeah, and he's fantastic, but...
Boo, that man.
He's fantastic, but he didn't have what Ozzie had on the ball. He could do all the off the ball. Yeah, he could do it. The same. And I've seen Chara do it. I've seen Chara cover 3 people's jobs. I've seen it. But he wasn't giving us the same with the ball. So that's what... So, Beckerman, no. Juninho when he's at LA, no. Like, there's no one that was on that level. So I think you're talking about someone who, even his story, how he came here, how he lands in Seattle, works his way up, becomes the club captain, is the first one to lift MLS Cup. That's the heart of the team.
Did he ever talk about that experience on how he defected and what it was like? And
we used to joke about it all the time. Yeah,
for real?
Just like, Ozzie. Ozzie. I'm telling you, Ozzie's like a great storyteller, funny guy. We talk about that stuff all the time. But no, he's very early on, because I didn't know that he was in Houston and walked out of the mall, wherever he was. So I learned that very early on, and even like with his wife and how they knew each other in Cuba and came here. His story is just crazy. Amazing. And then, like I said, so I think those things, there's certain things that make Ozzie, and then the fact that, like, if I think of myself, very early on, I knew I could play in MLS, but I didn't know could I play well all the time. Like, I used to look at the consistency of like maybe Landon or Robbie Keane or whoever, Oba. Like, these guys are good every week. But even they would have off days. There'll be games where Oba wasn't Oba. It wasn't often. There'd be times. I generally don't remember a game where I looked at Ozzie and he was just off. Like, okay, Ozzie is just... There's a couple games where maybe he's not quite, but the consistency...
Only 89 of 92 passes completed.
Exactly. Yeah. So the consistency is what I think you just can't replace. And then you see how much it meant to him. He cared. He had his heart behind it. And, you're in some of those huddles with him before the game and he's getting you going. And, yeah, Ozzie, you could feel his presence. Ozzie grew, like, at team dinners the night before the game, as we're going over tactics or whatever. More and more, he might say something, or he might just say one line, and that's the one line that's going to make us lock in as a team and focus. And before the game, we might sit next to each other in the locker, we're playing music or whatever, we're playing soccer tennis in the locker room, and we're just talking over what to do in the game, tactics, and Ozzie might say one thing to me and I'm going to take that to heart. He grew into that guy. He was very connected to obviously all the Spanish speaking players, but the Americans too. Ozzie was, the Africans, like Ozzie moved in every group. Like, Ozzie was just whatever. Like, he was very close with Son and Yassi, for example. Like, they would joke that he was close with Oba, close with Clint. Like, him and Clint would hang out with their family. So he just was, I think, the heart of the team in a way that I don't think anyone can beat again. Like, I always say, for me, that's the best player in the club's history. And I say that with an asterisk. Like, I don't include Oba in that because that's not fair. So Ozzie's like the best of the humans. And then Oba is... Like that one I can sit here and talk for. That's different. But the rest of us, Ozzie's like by far for me the best. And I played with some really good players, but that's the best player I've played with. Like, hand on my heart, honestly. All my friends that have ever come to watch me in Seattle since 2009, when I was playing for the team, would come to a game for the weekend, whether it's my parents or a friend from home. They would always ask about Ozzie. Always. Like, who was number 6? Every single one of them, without exception, because they just, you couldn't believe someone of that caliber. You know, I used to, and I'm glad you didn't, I used to push him to go overseas all the time. Go to Spain.
Thank you
to
for
England.
not.
Yeah, always.
I'm glad you weren't successful.
Yeah.
He had a trial at some point, didn't he?
He and I both went to Everton in 2010. We were a week apart. So I went to Everton. I trained for 7 days, and as I was leaving, I was I was going back to London. Ozzie came. Ozzie was in the UK. Ozzie trained with Everton for a few days, and then he did it next year with West Ham. So he went there, and I know he could hold his own because I've trained with Everton, and this was after my 2010 season. So I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I'm on the level of it, and then I knew their midfielders, they were good, Tim Cahill, Arteta, but I knew Ozzie could play there. So if he had that desire and was able to pull it off, he could have played anyway. I've only seen Ozzie overwhelmed once, and that was Barcelona. So like, that's Busquets, Xavi, we get it, you know, but
They were okay then.
but everyone else, no, he was no.
But it's funny. I mean, I'm glad you bring them up because having seen that team over a number of TV matches as well as in person, as well as watching some of those players play internationally, the one thing that a lot of those players have in common with Alonso and Oba as a good mention is like the eyes in the back of your head thing. Alonso, like, in a very different way than the Marco Papas and Obafemi Martins, where they go into the scrum with 8 defenders and they come out with the ball. Alonso's got 2 people running at him from the back, and he does some Cruyff turn or some random ass thing, and you're like, how did you even know to do that? No one yelled at him because you could hear it.
You knew, yeah.
He just knew.
Yeah, I've been on the pitch playing. It's hard. Like, being obviously a soccer player is hard. Being a good soccer player is harder. When you're on the pitch, you try and limit mistakes, and there's fans and there's pressure, whatever. Like, I would not want to receive the ball, my back to goal outside my 18, not knowing what's behind me. Like, I just don't want it in that position. Like, I don't mind higher up the pitch. I don't mind getting the ball under pressure, but not there. Ozzie would welcome it. And every now and then I would hear like the fans getting nervous and gasping, and then by then I'd learn not to doubt the man, because it's like he's going to get out and he would spin and the striker could never read him, and then we'd be on our way attacking. So it's one of those things where I would just ask him, like, where did you learn to play? I've never seen this style before. Like, where did you learn? And he could never really answer me that question because he loves baseball. So that, you know, grew up in Cuba playing a lot of baseball with his dad and things like that. But I don't know who taught him this is how you play that position, because I've not seen it in that way. I told him Ozzie was so quick. If Ozzie had gotten, like, if Ozzie grew up with us in London, he would have been a winger. I told him all the time. Because sometimes you see him make those runs down the right, and Ozzie would have developed that skill set and gone down the right. But no, you got one of the quickest guys on the team, one of the most technically gifted guys on the team, in the middle, who also can stop. For me, that was always the impressive part, how he would stop or put fear into some of the top playmakers in the league. They did not want to play against Ozzie. I wouldn't want to play against Ozzie, I'm thinking of. Even if, like, I'm thinking back to my prime and when I just felt like we went into games almost invincible. Like, I've spent very few nights, like the night before the game, staying up, worried about like the right back. I didn't really think about it. If I knew I was playing Ozzie, that'd be one of the rare occasions where I would have to think that I got to bring out every trick from my bag of tricks. I've got to do something. I've got to
take advantage of
I need to. What I would do, and I told him, I would get him a yellow card in the first 5 minutes. Like, I would bait him in, step over, let him kick me, ref, yellow card, and I know he's on edge. Then maybe I can play. Because aside from that, no way.
That's one of the ways he significantly differs from Diego Chara, by the way.
Yeah.
He didn't really get those early yellow cards.
He didn't. Smart, yeah.
So I think we honestly could talk about Ozzie Alonso for like, 3 more days?
No question.
Straight, probably. They'd run out of beer before we would be done. But we do want to talk about cool shit that you've been doing.
Yeah.
So there's this, film thing that you have been involved with.
Yeah, man. So,
Are you running it? You ready to show the trailer? You want to feed that in? Please do it.
There's a kid that is the best player in college soccer.
Forget all of that. just pray that they'll be all right in life. Arsenal came.
In North London, once you come out your house, it's a completely different environment.
We barely had conversations during that time.
Myself, the whole family, we were affected.
Zakawani's cross, Eddie Johnson has scored! Steve Zakawani!
I expected him to go number one the day I saw him play.
You literally had somebody who was at the pinnacle of their career.
Heard the impact very loud, like a firecracker.
Someone just told me, no, Zakawani got injured. I was like, shut up, man. You know, you're joking.
When you can't play and do the thing that you most love to do, it changes your life.
Badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom.
Okay.
Did I tell you mics were open?
Yes, you did, but
They didn't care.
So,
I'll say this on Ozzie as well. No, I just thought of it.
Yeah, let's go.
Like, I think we've had enough players now.
I'll take that.
In this is the 10th year, 11th season, whatever it is, where you can start to think about all-time soundest team in MLS era. I think there's maybe 2 players who unanimously would be in everyone's team. And maybe not even that. One for sure, and that's Ozzie. I don't think anyone would leave Ozzie out of their team. If you did a 4-4-2, pick your best. Oba would be very close, but some might go Montero and Dempsey. I don't know. But I think, so that's another sign of where he is. Like, he's, like, a lot of us would say, I should be there, but you can understand if someone said, no, I think that guy, I prefer that guy, you'd get it. He's the only one, if you really left Ozzie off, like, it would make no sense.
you would lose your shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What about Mike Facito?
You'd be on his team.
So we watched. I think it was nearly 2 minutes. It's a trailer for Unbreakable. Comes out February 9th.
Yeah.
At unbreakable11.com.
Yeah.
And this was documentary made
Yes.
basically about you.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, and it I can't remember exactly how it came about. It was a couple people close to me were saying you should do it. It was like, it's like a couple of years ago actually, and we didn't want to do it. Things lined up. It made sense. I was going back to the UK anyway. The first people I called was the people over at Arsenal, where I grew up, like the head of the academy, some of the coaches who have all moved on now, retired and things like that. But they agreed to be in it, and then we were able to do it. So I think people in Seattle probably, well, not probably, they know me from 09 onwards, and then you can look into maybe some of the Akron history. Came from London, went to this college, played with these guys, had these numbers in college. But this covers a lot of like the before, growing up in London, and you know, as a kid, like where I first started playing, like, you know, like my dad is in it, like he's really breaking down my life from his perspective, and I watched it. Like I wasn't in it, I didn't direct it, I wasn't like creatively. I just put them in touch with who they wanted to talk to and watched it. So it does well. The goal of it was to kind of cover the injury, the comeback, and things like that. So like speaking to like Dr. Morris, you know, Jordan's dad, who did like 6 of my surgeries, I think. He's in it. The Sounders trainers, Adrian, is in it because, you know, he sent me his plane to come from Denver back to Seattle. So he speaks about that experience. You know, me waking up after the game in Denver in the hospital with our trainer Sigi and Adrian. They didn't fly back with the team, they stayed back. So a lot of those stories come out, and I think you get a fuller picture of the journey. You know, the years I spent at Arsenal, which were just fantastic. Some of the guys I played with there, the Akron years, we kind of went into those a bit more than I ever have. Maybe like Caleb Porter speaks a lot about him sending his assistant to London to watch me. How they came to watch another kid and not me. I just happened to be there making up the numbers, and then they were like, we want to get you. And then I took the SATs, which I didn't know what they were, and then had to get this exact score. That happened. It just, all these things fell into place.
What was your friend's reactions to you doing well enough on the SAT?
He couldn't believe it. He said, I never knew Steve was that smart. So he couldn't believe it.
That's my favorite moment in the movie.
He couldn't believe it. So, me neither. So it's like, we just did it. And then it worked. But just looking back for me, just like, yeah, it's been a fantastic journey. Like, it really has, man. Like, go like London and then Ohio and then Seattle and then all these places become like home. But when I arrived there, I don't really know anyone. Like, I never knew anyone in Seattle. I never, knew anyone in Ohio. But you've made such strong bonds there, and they're a huge part of my life, as big as the London and being born in the Congo parts of it. And this traces all four. We went. They did a couple shots in the Congo. My dad speaks about that part of it, our family, what our life was like back then, how I got into the sport. Obviously, the main focus is the injury, the comeback, Ziggy giving his perspective on it. It's cool. Landon Donovan, he's in it. The sad thing that we shot with Thierry Henry, but the sound never came out good, so we couldn't use it. And by the time we wanted to use him again, he was applying for like the Monaco job, so it was like, we can't add you, so he's busy. So it's like, he did some really good pieces as well, because I spoke with him a lot during those times. So just everyone from those journeys. Obviously Ziggy speaks about the injury, he speaks about the draft, the combine, having to convince Adrian to take a chance on me, and then those early years, just how it was. And then there's a lot of highlights as well. Like, I don't really watch my highlights. I don't like, but as I did this, like, I'd go and watch it, and just remember, like, played with some really good players, with some really good teams, how much fun it was playing and being a part of this team. And then it's probably the first time that I've actually allowed myself to ask, I wonder what would have happened. Like, I've never really done that. So if I never had that injury, what are we talking? Are we talking, MLS All-Star? Are we talking, maybe not? Do I get worse? Are we talking EPL? I don't know. So it's the first time I've kind of looked at it from that perspective, and looked at where I was at 21, 22, and how my game was evolving. And, the challenge, I think, going into my third year was either have a goal or an assist every game, have something, and was moving towards that. So it's the first time I've looked at it from that perspective and really sat down and tried to analyze how I was as a player. I've never really thought about that. You always think, yeah, you were good, but how good, how bad? And so that was also a fun experience for me.
From after the injury, that's kind of one of the significant differences between the documentary and 500 Days.
Yeah.
The autobiography.
Yeah.
Is a little bit more of your introspection about what could have been. Because 500 Days wasn't about that.
Yeah, I wasn't ready at that point. So I think now I don't care. Like, I just look at it and I'm just like, it would have been cool. You'll never know, right? No one would ever know. Something like Landon's like, I think Steve could have played in the EPL. I don't know if I could have. Like, maybe he's being nice. I don't know. Like, Darlington Nagby phones me all the time, and he's just like, I'm watching our Akron highlights, for example, and things like that. And we talk about all the guys on the team and where we went, where we got. And they think that, like, me personally, I remember when I was playing, like, Chris Henderson every now and then would come see me and be like, this team is asking about you, keep going. I remember sitting with Adrian at the end of every season. I don't know. So that's another guy that I have to thank a lot as well, because Adrian really has made my experience in Seattle phenomenal. Like, we've become very good friends. But I don't know that he did that with many players, where at the end of every season, I would sit with Adrian and he would just get my thoughts on the locker room, the team, what was happening, and then we talk about my future. So I think after my second year, where I really broke out and had a really good season, I was like, I'm going to Everton. I think maybe they were a little bit nervous about that. And then I was, my agent, Richard Motskin, who's like everyone's agent, but good friend of mine. He was really pushing for me to go. There was a team in Germany that was in 6th place at the time that had come to see me a bunch of times and was like, we want to sign you now. And I remember my dad was pushing me to go to Germany. And so, and I look at those things, I'm just like, yeah, that would have been amazing. And I don't think I've ever said this publicly. I'm going to say, so right before the injury, like, I had an email from Adrian with like a 4-year contract in my inbox. I probably still have it. Like it was in my email from Adrian Hanauer. I remember it came really late at night, and it was after a game right before the injury. So I think we just beat Chicago at home. We won 2-1. I had a game-winning goal. I came home, and it was from Adrian. And it was like, we want you to stay. And I had a 3-year guaranteed contract and 2 option years coming out of college. So that was my 3rd guaranteed year. And I'd outplayed that contract, so they didn't want to go into the options. And so I think of those situations, like would I've stayed in Seattle and played all those games with Ozzie and with Brad and those guys, and been a part of that, or would I've done what Montero did and gone the other way? Because Freddie's still a Seattle legend, but he just didn't do it all in Seattle. So those are kind of the questions that I think the movie raised for me. But ultimately, it was just being happy, man. Like, you look at where I actually came from, where I started playing, man, like on the school playground, on the streets outside of my house, and to go pro, it's tough. Like, from my neighborhood, I can count, very few players that went all the way. It's like Bradley Wright Phillips had to come to MLS because Bradley started in UK as well. Yannick Balassi, he plays for Aston Villa now. Good friend of mine, also from the Congo. Our families grew up together. He made it. Wilfred Zaha, he's a little bit younger than us. He's at Crystal Palace. My brother, I'm literally naming names. Raheem Sterling was from our neighborhood, but he was younger than us. And it's a handful. It's not easy to go pro, whether it's in England or MLS. So the fact that it happened left me with a massive satisfaction that, you went all the way. And then it's unfortunate how it ended, but, I did all I could to maximize, like, the talents I had.
In that early portion, when you're in North London, a lot of the movie talks to the friends that you grew up with, and it connects with them and what they're doing now as well. And I remember one of your friends that you would play like school ground ball with. It's England, so I don't know quite, but he's basically a principal.
Yes,
in the school
my school, and
you went back there and you talked to your friend who is now, because you weren't the good kids.
No, we weren't. No, he was like 3 years older than me. He was a bad influence on me in school. So I came in year 7, which is that freshman year, and he was a horrible influence on me. Like, his younger sister was in my class. And if you ever upset her, she just called his name. I'm going to go and get my brother. And then you'd stop, because he was that kind of person. To see him now be like assistant principal was crazy to me. Like, at the school, he wears a suit. He's very calm. Like, those stories as well are amazing. Someone asked me the other day, and I was thinking about this as well. Like, who is the best player you've seen? And it like, my mind goes to my neighborhood. There was a kid. He didn't make it in the movie because we couldn't get hold of him. Like, this is kind of the stories that come out of where we're from. There's a guy called Patrick who was signed to Chelsea when he was 9, played until he was 15 at Chelsea. England wanted him, like the national team were like, by the time you're 17, you'll be playing for the national team. Wow. He was better than Wayne Rooney. This guy, at that point in England, was just the guy. He unfortunately got into a really bad situation, ended up going to prison, and then threw his chance away. The absolute best player I've seen in my life. From the Congo, grew up in London just like me, 2 years older than I was, played on some same club teams as my older brother. But that was like my idol. Like, it wasn't like as much as I love Thierry Henry and Ronaldinho and those guys, it was that guy. Like, watching him, I've never in my life seen someone who can do what he did with the ball. So,
what was his name?
Patrick. So now he's living in Rome. He's playing. It was happy for me when I signed my contract with MLS. I went back home. I saw him. He just come out of jail. So it's, though, just to come out of there, man, it makes me happy just to come from that neighborhood, and like, I'm sitting here in Renton with all of you, and it's just like I don't know how this happened. So
what's worse?
How big is the neighborhood? How big? How many population?
So everyone knows the team Tottenham,
right?
So the team, but I grew up in the city Tottenham. It's not big at all. It's in North London, and it's just a bunch of small little towns. Tottenham's R1, very rough era in the city. Like, I remember talking to Clint about it because he played for Tottenham, but none of the players lived in Tottenham. Like, you didn't live there. It's not a nice place. So, but for us, like, I went back there for the documentary, like, to one of my houses that I lived in there. It's home. Casey also played in Tottenham. We would talk about that. Freddie Ljungberg played for Arsenal. Would play against Tottenham. So everyone who had any interaction with a neighborhood like Tottenham knows like how rough and tough of a place it is. My dad does a great job in the documentary talking about us as kids growing up there and some of the pressures and challenges we faced as a family just being in that kind of neighborhood. So, but it breeded so many great players. Like I almost can't believe it. Just like some of the talent and the way I played is from there. Like I would play with my brother's friends who were 2-3 years older than me. I was always the smaller kid, so you had to be quick. Otherwise, they catch you and take you down. So I learned that quick feet. I learned to be brave because like receiving the ball under pressure, knowing that big kid's gonna come and hit me, but he hits me, I get knocked down, I want the ball again, things like that. So I've always attributed the way I play. It wasn't Arsenal, it wasn't Akron, it wasn't Seattle. I had this way of like, we joke about that stepovers and stuff, but even something like that, like I don't know how many players in MLS do stepovers, like really do stepovers. I don't know, like
not many.
Right. So it's like I was doing it back in 2009. So I'm like, I look now and I'm like, I want to see more of that. I want to see wingers who are trying things. And like, I remember the guy at Dallas, Castillo. He was one that used to excite me. That's why I get so excited about Handwala, because he actually does it. He plays that street style. If he gets a bit stronger and he could really be something. So it's like those guys excite me a lot because it reminds me of kind of how we played when we were growing up.
So, question: rougher area, Tottenham or Birmingham?
Oh, I'm always gonna say Tottenham, just because like I have first-hand experience. But there's a lot of crazy places in the UK, and Birmingham is up there as well. It's in the Midlands, we call it. Like,
yeah, I was just there, and I was like,
yeah.
It's about 125,000 people.
Mark goes to the wrong side of Kirkland, and he's like,
oh, you mean Tottenham Lake? You mean Tottenham Lake?
He's like, he's in the purple parking lot about 12:30 at night, and he's like, oh, I don't know.
I don't go to Tottenham Lake.
Goes to England once. So, can I just jump in a sec, Dave?
Yeah.
I think, Steve, you talked a little bit earlier about the draft, which was great, and since we've been on, peaked at that year, and there were a ton of players in the first 2 rounds that were actually in MLS Best 11, which it's like the most, but it's like the most in like 3 years in any direction. Like that was a really, really big draft. But you talked about people who gave you a chance or who have given other people a chance. And then you just mentioned Patrick, and we've kind of touched on different people at different times. And like the thing I always learned from people I went to high school with, like the kids who were all shore in New Jersey and were just balling at any level, indoor, outdoor, whatever. Then you go to college and they're not even getting on the field, and like the scale only gets harder and harder and harder. How much of that do you think is just how people like, I don't know, maintain themselves and step out and like show their own shit versus people who just get discovered? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like in terms of...
Yeah, like once you get, you start to get up at the levels, or you're getting recruited national team or whatever, like at the end of the day, some of it's luck.
Yeah.
You're in the right stadium, the right day, Chris Henderson shows up or whatever it is. But do you think it's like a combination of just getting discovered and it's luck, or do you think it's just... The best people really do?
No, I think for the most part, the cream rises to the top for the most part, but not always, because like I think across any sport, sometimes a team will sign a player and that player won't do well for the team, but that's not a bad player. It's just wrong coach, wrong system, wrong situation. That can happen, for example. So there's a lot of things in the sport that where you can have the ability and the talent, but you need so many things around you to be right. Like I spoke about my situation, like everything was just in place. The right coach, I had the right attacking players around me. I didn't have to be the star. I could just kind of do my thing. Sometimes I didn't play well for 3 games. No one cared because they were worried about the 2 Freddies or whatever, like in the beginning. So that helped me. So I think it just depends. I think if you're good, people will talk about you and the word will get out. In this era, especially now, like of social media, I think if the world is so connected, man, that if you're that good in a high school somewhere, people will find you to talk about you. Back when I was kind of coming up, like in London, we were sending, my coach was using a camcorder to tape my games and then cutting the clips up and then emailing them to colleges in the States. Like that's back then. Whereas now we'll just put up on YouTube and be like, watch this kid. So I very nearly didn't get discovered. I had a bunch of tryouts across Europe. I went to Akron, Ohio, which if I could do it again, it's probably not the school you choose because it wasn't a big school. They weren't producing pros. They weren't. I just went on a hunch. I just trusted the coach. Yeah, and then when I got there now, to the point where when DeAndre Yedlin comes to me a few years later, is like, where should I go to school? I tell Caleb Porter to call him. He goes there after his sophomore year. He's pro, and now he's in the EPL. So it's like some things just work. I look at my life and I just think some things just worked out. It's not the same for everyone. Even like someone like Freddie, for example. Like Freddie was better than MLS level. Like Freddie could have played even back in 2009 at a higher league, for example. But I don't know whether it's Chris Henderson, or I don't know how they found Freddie Montero. I don't know how they found him. But he came here and became a star, like became the man, and he needed that. Like Freddie really needed to come here, be the leading goal scorer, be talked about, be worshipped almost, and build his confidence to then go to do what he's going to do. So it just depends. But I think for the most part, if you're really good, you'll get discovered, and then you just pray that it's the right situation, right coaches, like everything falls into place, because sometimes it's not the player. I've seen players come to Seattle, and they're good. We had a guy called Mario Martinez. Listen, talent for talent, pound for pound, one of the best.
A lot of pounds.
Oh.
Dude. Damn.
Wow.
I was going to make a comment about a corner flag dance, but good job.
Just a fantastic player.
Yo, he's going to beat the shit out of Mark the next time he comes to Seattle.
Can you not bring him? He better not be at the Zach Wani event, or Mark can't be there.
So anyway.
Yeah. So people like him, I even think of I thought Marco Papa was so good. Like for me, just ability-wise. And I would have moved heaven and earth to keep him if it was me. But I understand. Like the fact that Papa didn't have an MLS team build their whole system around him has always shocked me, because we talk about players amongst each other. Like Papa comes up. Like I had dinner with Oba in London a couple months ago, and we're talking about and raving about Papa. Like, where's he now? Why? Like just so things like that. But wherever he's gone at times hasn't been the right team, right situation. But I still think it doesn't take away that player is actually really, really good.
He is Pinedo's favorite player of all time.
Yeah.
That's a great call on Papa. Papa, I think we again have probably talked about him at length on this show. But let's come back to Unbreakable for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So Feb 9, we heard that. Is that actually your birthday?
Yeah, on that day.
So the internet was correct in this particular case?
Yeah.
Some Wikipedia editor.
Someone edited that.
Huh? Yeah.
I think we had heard like a different day. So there was, rumors were wrong.
Yeah.
So we've got a premiere at the Egyptian? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing you're most excited? Like, don't give away the whole ghost, but what's the thing you're most excited for people to see?
So see me before 2009. Nice. Like to look. The stuff in Seattle is really cool. Some of the nostalgia will be cool. Hearing Ziggy talk, hearing Adrian talk, like that part's cool. I think the stuff before, the London part, the school part, trying to like sleeping in the back of a taxi in the Netherlands for the night before a tryout because we couldn't afford a hotel,
Damn.
like things like that.
That's crazy.
And then
How old were you?
I was like 17.
Jeez.
So, and then we paid like our flight to land that day. We had to return for a week later because it was a week-long tryout. Went there after the first day, and the coach says, "Go home." Like after the first day, so like we've got to pay the change fee, and then so things like that. Just like I think some of those stories come out, and those things come out. The coach I had at the time was like 19, so 2 years older than me maybe, and he just believes in us kids and helped us a lot. So I think those cool stories from like my childhood, seeing it on the big screen and sharing it with the people on my actual birthday, that's gonna be special, man.
Tickets still available?
Yeah, a
Let's
couple.
go.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a few. Jump on them tickets if you haven't already.
Unbreakable11.com. Yeah, there's a few. I have to check. I didn't check lately. I didn't get the report, but yeah, there's a few.
Jump on it if you haven't.
Yes.
So what do you have planned for this soccer year? We talked a little bit about off screen. You're going to be doing sideline reporting. On TV.
I mean,
anything else?
Yeah, with the sideline stuff, I just take it year by year. And if they ask me to come back, I'll come back. That's what I told them. So they did, and the schedule comes out. I always wait for the schedule because I like to travel a lot these days. Like I'm going to maybe in a couple weeks to London for a bit, and then Newcastle to see DeAndre. I'm gonna see Schmid in Berlin. I'm gonna see Freddie in Lisbon. So like, that's what I like to do now. And then I'm going back again in the summer to watch some more games. So in and around that, I try to do as many games as I can. Because one, I am a Sounders fan. Like I'm actually a fan, and it's good now because I don't think I played with anyone on the team now. If Lamar's not there, then unless I'm mistaken, I don't think I played with anyone on the team. So now I can be just a fan of the guys. I root for them. I wish them well. I enjoy analyzing it, seeing the growth of some of the players like Christian and Jordan, and getting to watch Nico up close. Like it's great. So I think
you played one game with Jordan.
I did
at Portland. I think a reserve league game.
Oh wow!
When he was.
Jesus.
That's amazing.
Fuck you, Dave.
Dave.
What the?
Dave?
Going deep.
Shit,
right.
man.
You might be right. So
he would have been like.
Yeah, young. 'Cause he was coming up a bit. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I like where MLS is at. I like where the league is at. I want to see what the new team does. Cincinnati. Wasn't that crazy about their draft and stuff like that, and the expansion draft I think they had, but I think Seattle's gonna. The good thing about being a Sounders fan is you're gonna be in the conversation for trophies and
come July.
No question.
Yeah, and long playoff runs.
Like August.
Okay, so last year you went over this. You predicted MLS Cup was Atlanta, and then for the Supporter Shield you said Toronto, which was clearly right.
You and everybody in the world.
Yeah. Eric Zavaleta is so pissed that you called Toronto.
What are you thinking right now?
No,
or you want to see some preseason?
No, I really want to see the Sounders prioritize Supporter Shield. Here's why. I think if you can be good over 34 games, whatever it is, for me it bodes well for the playoffs. I mean, look at Atlanta. I know New York's been, it's like 5 years in a row they've been in and around that. I just don't want to go through again where we're sitting here in July and August waiting for the run to begin. Right. Like we've done that 2-3 years in a row. Here. Yeah. Let's just be in the hunt.
Watching.
Let's be in the hunt from the beginning because the team's good enough. I think the team
maybe one of those 09 type starts?
Yeah. Like
3 wins to start?
We went 3 wins and we just never looked back. And it's like, so let's be in that position. I think the Sounders have what it takes to make a serious push for the Supporter Shield. I want to see them prioritize 34 games. The excuse of a short off season isn't there this year. They've rested. You've got, I think, having a year older, a year more experienced Christian Roldan without Ozzie is going to be huge. How he starts the season. Nico is going to be key. So I think you look on paper, the team is there to make that kind of run. Atlanta's not going to get worse. I don't think they're going to be very good.
I mean, it depends. Are we having 4 DPs or like what's that going to be?
Yeah, so they got to sort that as well, right? So it's like,
coach.
Yeah.
The coach did go to Mexico.
So I think, Columbus with Caleb, I'm interested to see what he does as a coach over there. No.
Speaking of people that are loyal.
Yeah. He's my boy. So yeah. So I'm curious to see what he does there. The Galaxy, I think it's the league's actually. Yeah, it's actually. I don't know who's going to be the best. I don't think there's. I just knew Atlanta was going to be the best team. I don't know that. I know that this year. I don't know. So Seattle should be.
People are going to gun for him now. I mean, you would hope.
If they lose Almiron, it's going to be tough because it's going to be tough.
Rachel has a question.
Yeah. Oh, am I doing it? Oh, really? Let me think about it.
We'd have to go back to the videotape. I think we know what you may have told us last time. Speaking of music. Do you have a new grime jam?
I the only way I'll ever make another song is if it's with Clint. So let's pray.
He's chilling right now, so we might be able to make that happen.
Huh? Yeah, Clint's chilling. So yeah, he is. We might. We've talked about it. We'll see.
Are you doing Zach Wani and Friends again this year?
Yeah. So it's looking like June 2nd. I think there's that big break in the schedule.
June 2.
Is it for the Gold? I think it's the Gold Cup. I don't know. Okay.
The longer amount of time that MLS has off for the Gold Cup than it did for World Cup last year, because that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I saw the schedule and I was shocked. But so sometime this summer it's gonna be the 5th one, most likely the last one. Because we'll do something different after. But there's a couple names that will excite people that will come back to Seattle.
Marshawn Lynch.
So I actually saw him not long ago. So I talked to him. So he still talks about it. So, but no, we'll get a couple of big names to come. And so June 2nd most likely, but we'll put those details out really soon.
All right.
Put it on my calendar just in case.
I love it.
Unbreakable11.com.
Let's get Sue Bird come out. That'd be dope.
That'd be nice.
She might be busy in France or playing in the WNBA. She'll either be in France watching
one or both of those things,
and or playing in the WNBA.
I did appreciate
and or GMing for the Denver Nuggets.
I did appreciate though the people who jumped on that and were like, actually, it was so MLS players would be able to watch the Women's World Cup. Perfectly good answer.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, a lot of people are going to the World Cup this year, and there's some pretty awesome spots.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been to France in spring or summer, now's your chance. So
Tom's taking us all to France, guys.
We could probably riff with you all night long, and we'd be happy to, but we want to be respectful of your time. So we've given you the floor before. If you could tell people to do something, anything you want, what would that be?
Just these people here?
Yeah, or the people viewing, people who are going to watch this later.
Yeah. No, in general, man, I think this year obviously is a special year. I know the club, they probably haven't announced it yet, but they've got some special things lined up. It's 10 years as an MLS team. I think you look back, the journey's just been unbelievable. You've got guys like myself who were involved from day one, are still somewhat involved. And then you've got, the earlier era, the Freddies, and you're looking at even guys like Brad Evans in those years and Ozzie who helped lay the foundation, Leo Gonzalez, to the nows, the Rodans, the Jordan Morrises. I think the one thing that, and I know players, we say it sometimes, but it's so genuine, is the fan support is just, it's unbelievable. In the documentary, there is a scene that captures like the fans on the comeback, and it's like goosebumps even watching it all these years later. So I think you guys are amazing, even if, sometimes I might disagree with your Twitter takes on the team or whatever. That's fine. I think the fact that you guys support...
Wait, bad takes on the internet?
I'm available.
Yeah. So, no, I think it's really appreciated, man. There's something like this happening. I think Seattle is still the standard setter in that sense, in terms of fan culture. And the way you guys get behind the guys, it makes a big difference. So I think, for me, I can look back in 2 days, I'm celebrating 10 years of officially being a Seattleite. I'm grateful, I'm thankful. I can't imagine, having gone to another team that I would have had the experiences I had. So I'm grateful for that. And then to all of you, I would just say keep supporting the guys. It goes a long way. It goes a very long way.
LFG.
That's awesome.
No question.
Any final thoughts?
Oh, man,
we could talk all night. But
no question, man. Love having you here, man. Spend time with us. It's appreciated, man. It's a privilege that we don't take for granted. So,
of course.
So thank you for being with us and sharing.
If you guys have questions, I can take questions if you guys have some. If not,
audience questions. We got a live audience today of dozens.
Yeah.
Anyone have a question for Steve? Surprise.
There's cold people. Is what I see.
Everybody's cold, but we do have a fire here at the Berliner.
Yeah.
Oh,
Grandma.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Have you ever considered have they ever asked you to do the color?
If I heard you said doing the color, we've talked about it. There's someone in that position right now. But yeah. It's been mentioned a lot actually. So it's a possibility, but there's only one color guy at a time. So yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
I'd rather hear you, Steve. Yeah.
The live audience loves Steve doing color as a concept.
And or play-by-play, depending on who you want to talk to.
That's funny.
Any other questions out in the audience? I got a All right. What do you got? No.
He was that guy singing it.
No.
No one knows.
He's having fun, so I mean, that dude's brave enough to sing karaoke, so I can't really mock him. All right, how about we wrap up? We close the show nowadays with the segment that Dave likes to call Plug Some Shit. So we're just going to work down the line and no, and just Ugo. It's your opportunity. Take the mic.
I'm a plug. Civic engagement. Get engaged with your communities.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Unbreakable11.com. Get your tickets now.
Love it.
Steve.
What he said, man. What he said.
Keep your eyes peeled because YachtCon is coming in the off season.
Yes, sir.
Tickets are out.
Tickets are on sale now.
I can vouch for.
Jeremiah hasn't named one of the special guests, but he might be at the table with us.
I can vouch for the food for the VIP experience.
Okay.
I highly recommend you get that VIP because the food. I can't talk about it now, but I can vouch for it.
Tell me, because I already got my ticket.
All right, I can't. Offline. Let's go.
We'll have details on that YachtCon 3, which is actually like the 4th live show.
YachtCon 96.
That'll be up soon.
No, that's true.
Mickey.
Sorry, my bad.
Patreon.com/socceresq.
Yeah,
I'll
but,
plug that for you.
Yeah, but Athletic, get a subscription. I just posted a story today. Chicago Fire not doing very well at the moment. They're getting sued. So.
Oh yeah.
Don't follow me on Twitter.
Is that because they didn't make the World Cup? They're
As
bad.
always, here on SonarFeed, we're going to thank the Berliner Pub for hosting us and putting up with us.
Where's the Berliner Pub?
Just off of 3rd and Main, downtown Renton.
Ahead of the curve.
Thank you again, Steve Zakawani, for coming down.
Again.
Unbreakable.
We learn stuff every time.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
For real. Good times. Thanks, Waggle. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Don't burn yourself on the fire on the way out.